Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 18 of CMC Talks. Welcome, Willie.
Welcome. Are you all right?
Yeah, good, thanks.
Right. Today's guest is a man who's spent decades improving poultry health and farm knowledge across the Southwest, but also a man who's recently stepped onto a gym machine that declared his physical age to be 72.
And he's not 72, I'll just emphasise that quickly.
and advised him to order a hearse. He's been attacked by elephants in Thailand, pranked Americans into hunting imaginary Canadian wildlife, and was once described in Norway as a pregnant walrus being rolled onto a dock.
Oh my God.
But he is also one of the most respected poultry vets in the country. The former WCLA chairman, founder of the Stuart Young Veterinary Services, director at Mount Vets, and now semi-retired with PHS. Please welcome Stuart Young.
The legend that is Stuart Young.
Good heavens. I thought you said it was going to be a bad introduction. That was quite good.
Well,
there was no mention of alcohol or anything.
There's definitely some stories there, Stuart, that you need to embellish.
I had to cut a lot out. Yeah. Just to clarify, you're not 72, are you?
No, 57.
Oh,
actually, yeah.
Where did it all start, Stuart? You've done loads of different things up to now. Where did you grow up on a farm? How did
we actually share something in common, Stuart.
Oh, really?
We both did a degree in animal science.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah. When William sent through your resume,
yes,
which I obviously studied with immense detail, I was like, but you did yours at Reading, didn't you? Whereas I was Nottingham.
Yes, yeah. So, I was born and bred in Cheshire.
Okay.
And it sounds flash because Cheshire has now become, associated with footballers and posh. We lived in a cottage, if you like, on the family farm that my dad built.
Yeah.
And my uncle ran the family farm, my mum's brother. That's where it all started, really. The
love for it.
Just farming, full stop. Just loved it. I could not get enough of it.
Did you always want to be a vet, though?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So you'll know All Creatures Great and Small.
Yeah.
James Herriot.
Is that what you want? Is that your idol?
Oh yeah, definitely. When you're growing up, I could just see it. It was just fantastic, and I didn't miss an episode. And of course, we had the vets come to us occasionally, but very different than the.
Than now.
Than that, yeah.
In a relatively short time, I think the veterinary world has just changed beyond all measure, hasn't it?
Oh, it has, yeah. And the vets when they came on were just, we treated them like royalty, really.
Yeah.
They were so respected. Very different from when I first went on a farm, I think, as a vet, sort of treated with suspicion. But anybody that came on as a vet were lauded, and they were so well respected, and it was a profession that meant so much to the community. So, yeah, it triggered something in me, and I thought, yeah, that's what I want to do. I was lucky, I suppose, that I was quite clever at school. No common sense, as my uncle and my brother told me every single day I was on the farm.
You can't have both. It's just really...
Yeah, you say, oh, for God's sake, Stuart. And I used to think, what is common sense? I don't know how do you define it. But I didn't have any. That was patently obvious because everyone kept telling me. So perhaps the farm wasn't going to be the best place for me. And it was only because I'd stand in the wrong place, when the cows or the sheep were coming. And they used to say that, I'd overthink things, just get on with it. And I remember I was mucking out one of the pens with my brother, and it was just literally hand mucking it out into a muck spreader, and I stopped. Apparently, my brother said, "What you stopped for?" And he says, "Right." I said, "I think we can do this quicker." He says, "I'll tell you how to do it quicker. Shovel a bit faster." Yeah. So I was thinking, So I basically I went to I got through to grammar school, which I absolutely hated. I'd been in a lovely little primary school, which was 70 people in a little village, to, a marauding sort of Harry Potter type place. A fantastic school, really, but just didn't sit with me very well. So I did okay, but I was never going to get the A-levels to be a vet. So that's where I went to do animal science at Reading, which was in those days called PBNFA. Is the longest name in the UCA handbook, Physiology, Biochemistry and Nutrition of Farm Animals, and that's what it was.
Oh, wow.
So that's where it all sort of started, if you like, and I think I'd always wanted to be a vet. Reading seemed the next best thing, and it was. Reading was. It was a toss-up between Nottingham and Reading, to be honest, because you said.
Kazza went to Nottingham.
Yeah, I went to Nottingham. Both amazing. At their, in their time, I think it's quite sad now how much those departments have faded. We've lost a lot of expertise, and I think that's a real shame for the UK because we had a huge amount of knowledge within Reading and Nottingham that unfortunately has been lost, mainly due to cuts and perhaps not being as attractive for people to want to go and study those things. I think the ag colleges are still doing really well, but I think the university degrees, perhaps people just don't, A, can't afford it, and B, don't see the value in it, which is, I worry that we're losing some of those really good evidence-based agricultural decisions, which I think are really important. But we spent many times at Reading, and we're very lucky. Great days, Stuart, great days.
I don't remember much about the first 2 years because I was
agree.
drunk for most of it.
I agree.
I'll be perfectly honest.
How do you feel about people defining vets as work hard, play hard? Is that fair or unfair?
Oh God, I mean,
definitely the man for that.
Yeah. I got that from my dad without any doubt. My dad was an electrician, and he would work 7 days a week because as an electrician, everybody would ring him up. Can you mend this? Can you fix this? In those days, you used to fix things. Yeah. This time of year, I'd be with the little tester testing Christmas lights because everyone would throw the Christmas lights to my dad and say they don't work, and of course they were all in series then, so if one bulb went, the whole thing went, so I had to go with a tester to test every single bulb in these massive chains, and then I'd find one and put it in, and then we'd give it back to the
another happy customer.
Another happy. So my dad was a workaholic really, and but every Friday and Saturday night he'd be at the pub, and he was just so sociable, really funny.
It's in the genes, then, Stuart.
Definitely followed your father's footsteps.
Well, possibly, yeah. Mum was very meek and mild and lovely and so kind, but he was a big influence, if you like, and he could talk to anybody, no matter. In those days, there was quite a big social class system, if you like, because especially where we lived, there was some very wealthy landowners and stuff, and then there was not. We weren't far from the pottery industry, which was very, the potteries were from the Industrial Revolution time, and the mines that weren't very far away from us. So you had this big contrast. But Dad could talk to anybody, and I suppose it doesn't bother me either.
No, it's a really nice trait to have, actually, isn't it?
Encounter different,
people all the time.
Yeah,
especially farmers.
I think when you're being asked onto farm businesses to provide advice, that ability to be able to speak at everybody's level and to everyone and make everyone feel part of the decisions is crucial to a successful career, would you say?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, definitely. I think, and the other thing is listening. My biggest fault? No, I've got so many. I don't know, it'll take up the whole day. But one of the things I definitely learned, and I know I was doing it, is talk over people. Because you're so anxious to get your point across that you don't listen. And you're eager, and it's keen, really. It's not being rude, but actually it drives people berserk, especially farmers and things that are saying, you're not listening. You're saying it's this, but I know it's not, it's this. And the number of times I came unstuck was immeasurable.
That's the biggest downfall of eagerness, isn't it, really? Because you see the point, you try and get your point across without letting them finish, and it can go very wrong.
Would that be your biggest piece of advice then to young vets coming into the industry now, that they need to listen more?
I certainly one of them. Yeah, definitely. And I think I actually thought you might ask this question because I was, sort of mulling it over last night. And that's, listening is vital. And but the best advice that I was given that I think still holds true is show you care. So I was told by my boss, my first job, phone up the next day just to see how that cow's doing, or that sheep, or whatever it is, because it might be fine, but the farmer will appreciate it so much that you've taken time. Do free call-ins. So if you're passing that farm and you've got 10 minutes, just go and see them and just say, you don't even have to go and knock on the door. Just in those days, you drive up the and look in the barn just to make sure it was okay. And then they'd probably see you, or the dog would bark, and they'd say, "Oh, what are you doing here?" And I was just keen to have a look. And that creates a reputation that is invaluable, I think. And I think and this is a modern thing because I know how much pressure young kids are in, is seek help. Don't be afraid. Another one of my mistakes, as I say, it's going to be a podcast of mistakes. Learn by Stuart Young. Avoid what he did. I think it is that you tend to want to do, you think, right, I've qualified, I'm a vet, that's it now, it's down to me. And you shouldn't have that attitude that you know everything as soon as you qualify. You don't know anything. And, they used to talk about apprenticeships lasting 7 years, and I don't know, they're sort of a couple of weeks now, aren't they, apprenticeships? But in those days, you could imagine that it takes you that long to feel comfortable and to see so many different things. You're still learning, obviously, all the way through, but always seek help very early on. Don't let it, because it'll affect your mental health. And,
I think that's so true in our industry as well, Willie, don't you?
Yeah,
I think just having those support networks, and, we have a group of younger salespeople on the team, and they quite often say, "How do you know this stuff?" And you don't actually remember how you know it, do you? It was probably from an older colleague or somebody more experienced than you that's passed that information down. And they say, "How can we know what you know?" And they can't, because I'm 20 years older. So it's like we've just been round the sun a few more times than you have. So it's difficult to be able to do that. But exactly like you say, just make the most of those around you, because I would say in our industry we're still very blessed that we have people that are willing to help and support you. So it's making the most of those networks, I suppose, isn't it?
Definitely.
Yeah, and it's also surrounding yourself with the right people as well, isn't it? And having that good core group of people you can go to and get that help and whatever. Having that around you is huge.
Yeah, and I think there are, some, the thing about vets, the way they were traditionally selected, you had to be ultra bright. They didn't really care about anything else, only that you did 3 A's at A level. So their communication skills, some of the vets I've worked with, were atrocious. And they only survived really. They'd never survived now, but they only survived really because of the esteem which vets were held in those days. And now that just doesn't wear at all. And you can't. The new graduates need to find that they're comfortable with their mentors for certain, and not have sort of conflict, because it's so easy to happen. It certainly did in one of my jobs. Where you get that, just somebody who's senior doesn't have that communication skill, doesn't realise when you're struggling, and it ends up in a mess, really.
Having spent my entire career in farming, though, farmers are quite a tricky audience, aren't they? Would you say? That's a bit of a leading question, Stu, actually. Sorry. What is your opinion
You've got
farmers?
other people like Will, who are a complete pain in the arse.
Yeah, I agree. Wholeheartedly.
I'm sorry I swore, but I did say it was for emphasis.
Yeah, I agree.
Can't emphasise it anymore.
Yeah.
You get... There's a huge variety, just like there is in any population, really. But, there are some that, that are just so lovely that you just... you'll make a mistake on that farm and they won't hold it as your fault. And it's just one of those things. Don't worry about it, Stu. The farmers, I think, the pressure that farmers are under now, compared to what, I think back to the days when I was on the farm, as a kid. Goodness me. It's chalk and cheese. It is for vets as a consequence, but you've got to feel for farmers as well. Some are out and out, very wealthy and moan when they shouldn't, but the vast majority aren't in that camp. And you have to just have to understand. I think that's part of the thing, when I'm from a farming background and spent all my youth in a farm and around with farmers, you get to know how they work, because you see the ones that are miserable, and you avoid them, and you see the ones that are a laugh, and you migrate towards those, and
they probably migrate towards you as well, Stuart.
Yeah,
they
yeah.
think, oh, we've got things in common, and we can work with this guy.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably more important now than ever,
Yeah.
because there are so many options for advice. I think historically people were incredibly loyal to their vets, like unbelievably loyal. I'm sensing there is a bit of a shift there now. Do you agree? Or
I on the poultry side, I see quite a lot of loyalty. I think loyalty, and I think that's really good as well. So I see on the poultry side, there's quite a lot of loyalty, but I don't know what it's like on the ruminant side.
probably less so than it used to be.
Yeah, I think you are comparing apples and oranges, though, really, or whatever the phrase is. Yeah. Apples and pears.
Don't worry, I mix my metaphors all the time.
Yeah,
you're
I'm
in good
metaphor,
company.
Yeah,
you're in
definitely.
good company.
Another one of my faults. The relationship you've got with the dairy farm, because you're there more frequently, generally, you're definitely not in the poultry situation. But what I'm trying to say is that in the poultry side, there are so few to choose from. In essence, I don't know how many poultry vets there are in the country, but it's a fraction.
It's very specialist, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a fraction of what there are. So there's more competition, but you'll see the mistakes far more if you're there every week or there every day, and things that annoy the farmers as when I was working with dairy cows, I think is, again, you'll make a mistake, yes, but it's charging so much, for stupid things that really grates. So you have to sort of work with the client. I think, I remember I picked up a client because they employed these guys every week to come out, and they did a very good job, but he charged them for PD in a cow at a TB test.
I've had that conversation just this week. Isn't that funny?
And you think, and you just don't do it. Just put your hand up. It's literally, if is she pregnant or not because she's a dry cow and she doesn't look as though she's going to calve, that literally takes maybe 5 seconds or 10.
Yeah, she's in calve or she isn't.
Just don't do
I
it.
mean, not that you need to get a scanner on and all this sort of stuff. It's a bit of a kick in the teeth when you're there every week and they're paying you a lot of money. So it's, when you say common sense, I must have learnt something, because that was the sort of thing, well, if I was in their shoes, I'd be really fed up as well. And so, I think it's, I don't say I've got all the answers, but that's the sort of thing that I think loyalty exists in both poultry and cattle, but I can see that because of the number of, the finances involved now, people are picking and choosing. They realise that the vet, they can get equally qualified vets from other practices. Yeah. And I think the older members of the farming community probably do have that loyalty no matter what species, but the younger ones are just looking at, I want the best performance, I want the best service, and I want the best value for money. Yeah. And why shouldn't they?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So going back, so obviously you did your degree at Reading. Yep. Qualified for that. I'm sure there's some probably great stories when you were at uni. But then you went to Royal Veterinary College after that?
Yep. In between that, so I got a scholarship to Australia, to Sydney University. So I spent 5 months in Sydney. Yeah. It was like a summer, and I got the scholarship, and I was going to end up in research for certain. They offered me a PhD, but I'd just met Gail. And so when I came back...
The commander.
The commander, yeah. So she was at Reading with me. And so when I came back, I thought, well, I was just going into my final year. What do I do? And my final year project was with the Institute for Grassland and Animal Production, which you may know as Shinfield.
Yes.
The old NIRD, National Institute for Research in Dairying. And you talk about facilities. Oh my God. I mean, it was like an enormous, it was like a huge building, like Harry Potter type school type thing, where the NIRD and the research that came out of there was, groundbreaking. They had, a cricket pitch, football pitches. They had all sorts of facilities that you could only dream about now. And next door was the pig unit, and I did some work with nutrition on supplemental fat in sow diets. And I just think that, it's a really important point you raise about the loss of that scientific, because I went in, I used to go, so I basically did my final year project. I was lucky to get a first. I went back because they said, will you finish off the research with this visiting professor from Australia? And I said, wow. Yeah, okay, because I thought I might do that. I also said, well, I'm going to hedge my bets here, guys. I'm going to apply to vet school as well. Now I've got the first, because I wasn't, nobody in the world expected me to get a first, I can assure you. So I was then employed sort of after my degree, and I used to go back, and the library was absolutely stunning. I mean, it was something you could only, you'd probably see on an old film or something like that. It was all oak panelled, and there was all these gorgeous books that went back, and the librarian says, we're just going to burn it all. We're going to burn all the books. Wow. And I was thinking, this is like a Soviet, sort of where they stamped down on, Stalin stamped down on all the people with, the doctors and the professors and all this sort of stuff. And she said, you're not supposed to take any of these books with you, but if you're going to go to vet school, and she just sort of winked and pointed me in the right direction. So I used to have to carry them out under my top. And because I was fat as butter anyway, it didn't really, so I'd go in.
You get 10 books in.
Yeah. I've got some now, have you noticed?
have you kept them, Stuart? Because I love those biochemistry and, Stryer biology books.
Exactly.
I just remember them.
Yeah. Well, because I sort of knew that the next stage, if I was going to vet school, was things like anatomy that I didn't, in dogs and cats and stuff, I had no idea. But I mean, it was related to large animals, so I just sort of pilfered, if I wanted the better phrase, without the librarian looking, but she was looking.
Yeah, but with her permission, I think.
A load of books went missing out of that amazing library.
And I suddenly then had a quite a nice sort of start to my library once they accepted me to vet school.
Yeah, because they weren't cheap at all. Those textbooks were unbelievably expensive.
And to think that, and that was genuinely the conversation we had. But I also learned at that stage that I was never a researcher.
Right.
It was just so narrow, the field, that you came up with a hypothesis, and then you sort of, I'm not saying, because I was nothing to do with the writing up, essentially I was named on the papers, but nothing to do with the writing up, but it's a bit like politics now. You can word things or you can interpret results the way you want them to sort of fit your hypothesis. And I thought, that's not really what this is saying. And I thought I got a bit disillusioned.
So you were much more the practitioner than the bench scientist.
Yeah.
You wanted the outputs of what you were researching to make a positive difference on a farm.
Yeah.
Whereas there is a little bit of I can completely relate to that.
Yeah, I think I didn't mean that I lost interest in it all, because I carried on that interest right the way through my career, wanting to find out more and doing stuff to make sure that I could. That there's been lots of instances, where I was lucky enough to, sort of. It was I don't know if you've heard of Metacam, which is a famous sort of injection for calves, and they said, look, we need some data. And these are the little forms that you can fill out. And I just went out to all the calf pneumonias and filled hundreds of them out, because I was fascinated by, everything had been phenidine, flunixin, but this was a wonder drug, really. It lasted a lot longer, and it seemed to do a better job, and temperatures came down quicker. So I was really sort of into being able to do any of that sort of research, but it was very practical.
Yeah.
With I would say research is glorifying it a bit, but I never lost that interest.
And that overwhelming drive to care, nurture, and basically make health better on farm. Because I guess you could see the upshot. Sorry, am I annoying you with my sound?
Wow, Karen just went off mic then.
Sorry. Your very nature is that you do want to help farmers have healthier animals, because they're going to be more productive, and therefore in the long run, hopefully those farms will be more profitable.
Caring, isn't it?
This makes me laugh, because Hannah Griffiths, that's now Hannah Mowland, she was she was an undergraduate when she first came to my practice, and she's absolutely fantastic, the most caring veterinary surgeon I have ever met. She had it in spades, and she eventually came to work for me after sort of, she did a degree. I rang her up on a day that she qualified, and she came and joined me, and, we've been firm friends ever since. But she used to say, "You hate animals, don't you?" And I said, "Why?" And she said, "Well, it's because as a farm, starting off in a farm, you handle animals as it's just the way you handle them. You're taught to handle them, if you like. And and I look back, was I heavy-handed? It was very different to the way Hannah would handle the animals, because you had to get the job done. You had to secure the animal. Whereas she'd see me as a brute that was sort of,
But is that a male and female difference as well?
Oh, I don't know. But it used to make me.
Hannah does, absolutely. Yeah.
She used to make me laugh, and she's only teasing, because she'll tease anybody about anything. But she's great. But yeah, the caring veterinary surgeon, and I don't want to make it grandiose, because I was just a pretty average sort of, I had there's plenty of vets that I can think of locally that really did make a difference. Andy Biggses of this world, and the Alan Bain in the poultry, who's done fantastic work with the game birds, for instance. But I definitely, I snared a lot of my experiences, if you like. So the research experience, the nutrition, which I absolutely loved. From an early age, when I'd be feeding the cows, I just loved it.
Yeah.
And you'd see them grow, when I'm talking about bullocks, really, the steers. And I'd be, when I got a bit older, I'd be mixing everything. So you'd start off with your barley, the rolled barley, and a bit of sugar beet, and then a protein nut. And my uncle would tell me what to put in, and I'd say, "How do you know that?" And I don't know. I think he just guessed. But they grew like stink. This is the sort of 70s, 80s, and you're just thinking, "Wow, this is fantastic." And so I got, that nutrition was. I'm so pleased I did the degree, and then I took that in. No vets, and this is a terrible thing to say. Some vets, but very, very few know anything about nutrition. So me going in with nutrition, and then, I ended up sort of running the mill. I suppose I did run the mill really at Herbert Percy's for all the cattle and all the poultry, and seeing, I didn't order the ingredients, but I'd have a say in what to order, and then design the diets, and that was so fulfilling, especially in dairy cows, where you're under pressure to get yield, to get fertility, but exactly the same in chickens.
Very rewarding.
Yeah, the chicken side was very much, the nutritionist was Tony Morangus, who you may not know.
No, I didn't know.
He was a phenomenal poultry nutritionist, literally one of the best in the world, and went all over the world. Yeah. So that was a great grounding I had from him about egg production and egg quality.
I'm really intrigued to know
why.
Don't worry at all. Why did you drop cows, sheep, and pigs in the end and specialise in poultry?
Who said I did?
Oh, you kept it all going.
Yeah. This is going to be a revelation to some, but not others. I loved cows. I was never going to give them up. I just kept both going. So I just had fewer clients in the end. But I suppose the way the story went was, I went to vet school. I got a job in Wiltshire, which was a mixed job. I soon learned that I hated doing horsework, and they wanted me in the summers. They wanted me to do more horsework, and I honestly, poke your eyes with sharp sticks. Yeah. I didn't mind the horses.
Apologies to any horse lovers out there.
No, I'm not apologising. No, and this is in Wiltshire, I have to add. Horse owners down here might be so different, but around the sort of Badminton Estate sort of area, and if you turned up, my friend used to go on, he was a cattle vet, and if you had to go to a horse in an emergency, he'd put his wellies and his waders on, and he'd come out of the car and
terrify them.
And the owners, you don't do horses, do you? And he'd go, nope, I'm the best you've got. And he just didn't care. And I took on that mantra of, we did a fair job, but nowadays it's different gravy, as my son keeps saying. But basically, I became a cattle vet there, and I wasn't really. I was so ambitious that I wanted to climb the ladder and become a partner within a fortnight of starting. You know, that's typical me, not really thinking this game through. And so there was a very established hierarchy, and I was firmly at the bottom of a big group of vets, and it was the George Vet Group in Malmesbury, which is now a 30 or 40 vet practice.
It's massive.
It's massive.
Really very good, but
yeah,
massive.
Superb.
Yeah,
and of course, I left just at the wrong time because all the senior partners left, and the guys that I were with all became partners, and I was like, another mistake. But I moved down to the Vale Vet Group, and was just pretty much out and out cattle vet, a bit of small animal work, never let me near a horse, which I was grateful for. And then I looking back, I think there's two sides to every story. I used to blame them that I didn't get on there, and it was almost certainly that I was a pain in the arse, I've got to say. Not as bad as you, but getting close.
Stuart was pointing at me.
Sorry. So I decided to leave, and then the Percys, who were three large farmers, it was the time of foot and mouth, and there was a lot of controversy about drug price and about setting up pharmacies and things.
Yeah, I remember.
And they approached me and said, I hear you're leaving. When I say they, it was their sort of managers, two in particular, who said, why don't you come and work for us? We'll set you up. I'd just had my youngest son. I'd just lost my father with throat cancer, which was very traumatic. Didn't really want to leave because I loved it here. And I'd got a job in Somerset, and I was going to go up there, and they said, why don't you come here?
Yeah,
we'll set you up as a practice.
And that's how. Okay.
And the deal is, you get us drugs at cost, and we'll pay you effectively like a salary, if you like. But you will start up as your own practice, and if it expands, and we'll see how it goes.
Oh wow! So that's how it all.
That's how it
the
started.
Beginning down here.
So I immense gratitude to the Percys, especially Herbert, who sort of he put me up on his farm in an office. And a PM room and everything, and we had this deal. It became that I had to look after the cattle, which was my forte without doubt. They had a mill, so I was keen on nutrition, and they knew that. Poultry, not a clue.
Oh wow!
2001, I had not touched a chicken. In only
that is a revelation.
Yeah, revelation.
Revelation.
Not touched a chicken at all. From 2001, and so they had primarily layers, and they were being looked after by David Shingleton, who's an old vet, and he was looking to retire. So I think he'd gone to St David's by this stage. So, and they basically said, right, you're going to do the lot. If you come in, you're going to have to do both. Yeah. So you're going to have to learn about poultry pretty quickly. And I'd done game birds in Wiltshire to a degree, and so my learning curve was completely vertical.
I bet.
And I learned from the managers, which were Simon Street and Joe Roberts, about primarily they sort of took me under their wing and said, this is very specialist. This is how chickens lay eggs. Did
it frighten you?
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah.
How
old would you have been in 2001? Sorry, my muscle.
So I was 33.
Yeah, which is pretty young, isn't it, to undertake that kind of responsibility?
And I was a one-man band, so it was 24/7, and I was going up against St David's, which were the behemoth of poultry, who were renowned for, being good businessmen, and so lots of things frightened the living daylights out of me, but I just got on with it, and literally,
So is that your personality style? Is that the benefit of youth and just being a bit like, I have no option, I've got a young family I need to provide for, I'm going to push on? I'm interested to know.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I think it's a combination, but I think looking back, I had that sort of, I was motivated. I had a bit of a swagger. Because it'd taken me a long time to get to vet school, I wasn't going to waste it.
Yeah.
And I thought, right, what have I got to lose? and obviously I spoke to Gail, and
I think we need to touch on a bit about Gail, because you call her the commander, don't you?
Yeah, I do, for very good reason.
To her face, she knows you call her the commander.
Yeah. And most of our friends behind her back will say the same thing. Gail, we met at Reading, so she was the year above me when I was 18, and she's very, very clever. She's Scottish for starters, from Glasgow, and then she moved to Essex when she was about 12. So when you've got a Glaswegian Essex girl, watch out. That's what I'll say. She was very, very just confident, very clever. Opinionated is not the right word, but she'd have her opinion. She would not care one iota if she upset anybody when she said it. She just got on with it. And we used to say, I don't know if you remember the phrase "page the oracle." There was something on the TV, like teletext, that used to be able to look at things.
I don't think I've thought about teletext for 30 years.
Before that was called the Oracle in the 80s, and you could look on TV for holidays and stuff, or whatever it was, or the news. And when we weren't quite sure, we'd say "page the oracle" and look at Gail, and she'd say, "Oh yeah," and it'd be anything. She just knew everything. It was incredible. We started sort of dating when I was 18. And she then went to work in the city as a banker. She did very well. So she became a manager in corporate banking. So her clients were people like Harrods, H. Samuel, big corporates. And I was her sort of, I was tagging along. She bought a house very, very early doors because in those days interest rates were about 16% mortgage rates, and she got one for 5%, and she got 100% mortgage, so no deposit needed. So she bought a flat in London because she knew I was going to vet school. So I was a kept man for sort of 4 or 5 years, and oh my God, how those tables have turned. She was very successful. And she climbed the ladder very quickly because she's just so hardworking, very bright, just had that sort of
aura.
Very professional, And that was in a time in the late 80s, early 90s, when it was all blokes with braces who were, I'm the cocksure man of the, of these premises. Breaking into that, it was hard, but she just had it. She had to be hard to do it. And she worked for the Royal Bank of Scotland, and we had she hosted a Burns supper. So that's all the Scottish banks with all their clients.
Please tell me you did the dressing of the haggis. Please tell me you
did.
No,
I didn't do that. No, they had some, they had a piper and some sergeant major from somewhere or other in the Scottish Highlands regiment or something. But I was on this table with the finance directors of all these huge companies at 22, 23 or something, or maybe a bit older, 24.
With an abundance of alcohol, Stuart. How did this go?
I'm intrigued.
Can you imagine how this went? So everyone had a bottle of whiskey. Everyone was given a little bottle of whiskey. Well, a little. It was about a 2/3 bottle of. It wasn't grouse. I mean, it was a malt
very
whiskey.
Nice single malt.
Yeah. And I was sat next to the finance director of Harrods, this old guy who was in his 70s. And we got talking about rugby because Scotland had won the Grand Slam in 1990, so he was...
Is that the last time they did?
Yeah, and he was still full of it, and, oh, you're English, yeah, blah, blah, blah. But England were doing, they were doing quite well. So there was plenty of banter going on, and they started to pour the whiskey. Now, I do not do whiskey at all, but, Gail said before I went, look, you just, A, don't get drunk, but B... make sure you're
like
polite.
To a bull.
It literally is. Tell us Stuart Young.
I think I've been in a situation where Gail said, "Stuart, don't get drunk," and I think that's gone very wrong.
I mean, this is this is 40 years of Stuart, don't get drunk. And she started to pour the whiskey, and of course, I got absolutely clueless. And he was drinking it like, I don't know if he was tipping it away because he kept drinking it.
Or maybe he could just drink it like
water.
He could just
drink it like water.
Could do that, yeah.
Oh dear. So I got taken to bed, and we'd got this.
You didn't pass out on your food, did you?
No. Well, I was taken out by the ear by Gail way before that, and we had this gorgeous suite right at the top of this building. It's the Grosvenor House Hotel on Park Lane.
Oh, that's where the Farmers Weekly Awards are, isn't it? Yeah.
And we were in the it was like, I don't know if it was a honeymoon suite or something. It was right at the top, and I mean, I drove there in my clapped out Escort. And they said it's valet parking, so you go around to the thing, and this.
Did you say just be careful because there's a bit of rust on it, so don't go too crazy
Exactly.
with the cleaning?
And this guy says, "I think you're in the wrong place." And I said, "I'm meant to be here. My girlfriend, not wife, just girlfriend. My girlfriend's running the. Oh, is she? Yeah, of course she is. Yeah." And I said, "You can check if you like." And Gail had put my reg number down, so they knew I was coming actually. And he looked down and said, "Oh my God." He said, "I can't get in that." And there was straw, there was crap, there was everything. And I got, you have seat covers, and they were all covered in SH1T. And this guy with the top hat, he's just like, it's like his worst day. He'd been driving Jags and Mercedes and Rolls Royce. And then this gets in this knackered Escort and drives it through. And then, so I walk into the Grosvenor House Hotel. And I don't know if you've been in there. Well, you probably have, haven't you? Yeah. So there's in the foyer, an enormous sort of presentation of flowers, and they were all real. And I couldn't believe that these, and I went up to them, and I was sort of pinching them and so the concierge suddenly came across and said, "Don't touch those! Don't touch those! What are you doing here?"
Did you say, I've escaped from the country? I've come to the big city.
And I said, "I'm meeting my girlfriend here, Gail Young." "Yes, of course you are, sir." It's just classic. And he said, "So, what's your name?" And I said, "Stuart Young," and it's Gail Topping. And so he looked down and said, "Oh my God, you're in the the grand suite upstairs." And I was, I had a check shirt on, and big dealer boots. Brown cords. I looked an absolute state, and you looked around, and there was literally, the landed gentry. Well, whoever it was, hoi polloi is the better word. Yeah. So they took me up to this room, and oh my God, it was unbelievable. The living room that they had there with this television. In those days, you didn't have big TVs. It went from virtually floor to ceiling. It was behind these massive sort of opening shutters. And I said, "I can't believe this. This is just pinch yourself moment." And we went into. The concierge took me into or the bellboy, whatever, took me into the main room, and there's this enormous bed. I mean, honestly, it filled this room. It was just ridiculous. And then you looked out over Park Lane, and there was a bathroom that you could swim in the bath and all this sort of stuff. And oh my giddy aunt. So Gail, she tries to get me upstairs, and I wake up on the bathroom floor about 6 o'clock in the morning. Gail's in this gorgeous bed. She'd expected it to be, a lovely night away.
And she still married you, Stuart. This is quite miraculous.
I'd say she's obviously very clever. She married you.
Yeah. And still, I think it was an act of mercy or something, that she did. But yeah, so
did she have to think about it when you asked her, or did she say yes?
Well, that's another story.
I think we need to touch also. You were a big part of WCLA, so the West Country Layers Association. You were part of setting that up, are you not?
Yes, yeah. So I had the idea, and this is from my memory, so other people might say something different, but there were some producer groups around the country, and we didn't have one in the southwest, and yet we had a huge density of poultry. So I thought it would be a good idea to set one up, and I mentioned it to some people, especially Rachel Watkins really went for it and said, yes, this has got to be done. So we organised for a lot of people from the industry, vets, farmers, sort of chick reps, nutritionists or whatever, to meet, and we put it out there as an idea, and we met at Cullompton Barton, which is Sonny McArdle's place, and we all thought, it's a great idea. And so they said, well, how are we going to organise it? And they said, well, will you run it, sort of thing.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
That's how it started.
And that was a lot about knowledge transfer, getting people together, that kind of thing, wasn't
information
it?
sharing.
Yeah.
Yes, that had always interested me. So
Yeah.
I'd been teaching, as I said to you earlier, that and I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I'd done some teaching at the Royal Vet College. I'd
Yeah.
taught at Bicton, taught at Duchy College.
And you also you got an award for doing that as well, didn't you?
Yeah. So in 2014, I got the Knowledge Transfer Award at Pig and Poultry Awards.
Yeah.
Which I was very proud of, actually. Although I'd forgotten about it. No. It was the thing I was proud of most was the sort of press release which said I'd done quite a lot for apprentices and young people in the industry to get them interested in things, because we spent a lot of time with the apprentices. Not just me, I hasten to add, there's a lot of others involved as well. But I got the award, which I was very pleased with, and I think it's vital that you have that. You still have. We were saying about earlier about having the right mentors around you, and that people share their knowledge and make sure that that's not something you keep to yourself. And I know some people do, because they think that they're in competition with other vets or with other people nowadays, that and they don't like to share it because it's giving their secrets away. But I was never one like that.
No, I think we've always said, poultry is very good at sharing knowledge and things like that. Getting better is always good, really, isn't it?
I mean, sometimes, Stuart, they allow me to be an imposter in the poultry world.
Yeah, occasionally.
And I do really love it. I love how producers share information with producers, and have you tried this company for this, and the people that come and take the birds out, all of that, like that information sharing, that knowledge doesn't just save time, it helps build relationships and rapport. And I think our industry need to be really careful. I think agriculture in the southwest benefits because we have the vista that we have, and the geography and topography and amazing farmers. But I think we owe it to our next generation to encourage them into this world that we're so privileged to live and work in. So I completely share your love for mentoring and training, and I think it is crucially important that we continue to encourage everyone to do that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it does sort of worry me, because, like I say, we've lost so much of the expertise. Someone's gone abroad, because the emphasis in this country isn't about it now. It isn't about agriculture or that research, which was so vital and provided, the industry that we've got now. But I think there's still some really good people out there, that can make that difference and make it an attractive place to work, basically, isn't it? It's trying to get people to understand that the opportunities out there are worthwhile. I mean, I drove in today, and that's what I miss most, is that, you come in, and I'd been actually at the rugby club setting up some tables for a meeting today at 7:00, and the mist over in the valleys.
It was beautiful. I agree. I thought exactly the same.
So just moving on a bit now. So you set up your own practice. You became part of Mount Vets. Is that correct?
So
and then on to PHS.
Yes. So what happened? I'd been lucky, I suppose.
Yeah.
I pitched in with Duchy College to get the Southwest Healthy Livestock Initiative.
That's right. Yeah.
One of the awards for layers and game birds. And I was very good friends with Piers Pepperell at the Mount.
Yeah.
And I knew the other guys, but not as well. But I knew Piers quite well, because we quite often did cattle meetings together. We're inviting all the cattle vets, sponsored usually by Boehringer, to do just like an informal pie and a pint and just chat about different cases and things. So we did LDAs and all sorts. So I mentioned it to Piers that I was doing this award, and they said, well, why don't we do a joint application for Swahili, because you've been through the application process.
Yeah.
And we could do, let's choose a topic, and we came up with the idea of BVD and Yoni's control. Yeah. This was before the national BVD and Yoni's control programs.
Yeah.
And so I helped Al Cagill, one of the directors, he's so clever, it's just frightening, to write the application, because I knew what the buttons to press a little bit, because I'd been involved with the other one. And so we became quite close. We worked well together, and they said, well, why don't we merge our practices? Because we started off, we got the Swahili Award for Yonis and BVD. I'd got my clients, but there were far fewer than the Mount, and my business fitted into theirs so that I became a director without having to, it was just a straight move, if you like. So we became Mount Vets virtually overnight, and or I became a director at Mount Vets overnight, or a partner in those days. And it worked fantastically well. Really, really good, progressive guys. Very different clients, I think. We had some, I had some pretty, go-ahead clients, big dairies, and they had a very mixture. They had quite a few sort of smaller, family-orientated, but incredibly loyal. Through hell or high water, they would never change vets. So, that's I had a fantastic time, but I was splitting I was going more towards poultry than I was cattle. I broke my hip. I had a hip replacement, double hip replacement, in 2009.
Wow, that's tough. What, both at the same time?
Yes, yeah. So I'd got arthritis in both hips, and it's likely to have been either I was overweight and played a lot of rugby, but they still think I was very young for that. And I got later diagnosed with something called hemochromatosis, which is basically you retain iron in your body when you're not supposed to. And they said at the time afterwards rather, that could have had a contributing factor to joint health.
Okay.
It's mainly liver and bits and pieces. So I don't really know. But I was at the stage where I could hardly walk. And I realised that I'd have to make some decisions because cattle wasn't going to be the future for me in this situation. So hence moving to the Mount as well, because I could pass my cattle on without losing it, and I could focus. And I'd really got into poultry in the first, very, very quickly, loved it. And so I could then spend more time in the poultry sector. So having those hip problems, actually, it didn't cause me any problems at all, but it made me change emphasis away from cattle and into poultry, basically. And then towards the end, I was so split, I just hadn't got time. I had some really big dairy clients, only sort of 4 or 5, but they were still big. I wouldn't say that they wanted me over anybody else. That's being, sort of conceited, really. I think I enjoyed doing it, but with an expanding poultry business, something had to give, and I wasn't prepared to give it, and that was a big mistake. And I then started to share some of the cattle work with one of the young lads at the Mount, who was absolutely brilliant, and took on another poultry vet, and it started to get a bit easier. But having a foot in both camps, I was the only director that I had to run the poultry myself, with Gail in the background, she was basically, once we'd had kids, she became the brains behind all the business of when I set up myself, and then the Mount as well. So me and Gail had to run the poultry really on our own, but I also had a foot in the cattle camp and had to do the TB tests. My fellow director said, no, you didn't. But I felt myself I had to. And that was the mistake. I took on too much. And my mental health definitely suffered. And unfortunately, we lost Gail's parents through COVID. And I lost my mum as well. It was a difficult time. We had 15 funerals in about 12 months.
Oh, my goodness.
My best friend from school, a really good friend from the rugby club, people our age, 2 good clients, 2 young clients from the poultry side. So it's Gail's parents died and left the boys, my 2 boys, their estate, if you like, their inheritance, which was phenomenal, because that was the game changer. Financially, they're secure. I was looking at...
Please, can you stop banging the table? I know you're passionate.
Oh, yeah. So I was suffering mental health-wise. I just couldn't cope with it all the work, The bereavements were difficult. So Gail and I sat down and said, well, let's try and give it up. So that was the best move by far, because overnight...
Did Gail influence you to come to that decision, or were you already coming to that decision yourself?
Never really. She would be happy with whatever I said.
Yeah, okay. And she would have supported you with whatever you said. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, Gail, she would never have any of the problems I had. She got her skin as thick as a rhino, not in a rude way, but just incredibly strong.
And very resilient. I had to get it in there, sorry. My favourite word ever.
Yeah, absolutely. Resourceful, resilient, whatever you want to use, just incredible. And that was that was a big plus, really, because when you're struggling like that, you don't know what to do. Yeah. You really don't. So
and also when you lose your nearest and dearest, it does kind of make you realise, I guess through our 30s we're all like, well, hey, life's for living, we've got everything ahead of us, how exciting. And then you get a few key points in your life, parents I think is a massive one, where you think, oh my goodness, actually we're not going to live forever, and we do need to plan for the future perhaps, and if your mental health is not tip top, then those situations are much, much harder to deal with, aren't they?
Oh, definitely. I became a different person, no doubt about it. I'd always been a bit of a target, once you set up. I mean, I took the Vale's biggest clients at the time, so I'm a big target from them. I'd left them because we didn't particularly get on. I think I hold my hands up, my fault probably. Set up, so I had that target. And then I had the target from St David's, so you had to be, I had to be fairly bullish about it to survive, because most businesses fail in the first 3 years, and I had that shouted at me so many times. But Gail was so strong that just crack on. But it got to the stage, I think, my two boys had struggled for different things. One had got mental health problems himself. The other one had got a tumour in his kneecap. So you reprioritise.
Yeah.
And I immediately, the weight was lifted off. We didn't know whether it was a good thing or a bad thing. We told the directors, who were fantastic at the Mount, very understanding. And then we had to sell the poultry, because nobody in the Mount knew anything about poultry. It had been my baby all the way through.
Yeah.
So we were lucky that I knew people in the industry. I approached PHS, Sarah Perez, who's a lovely, lovely lady, the most amazing lady going. She said, yep, we'll take it on. And so part of the deal was that I had to work for a workout clause, so that all the clients don't disappear and all that sort of stuff. But I'd taken on Al Chilcott, Chile, a couple of years before, and what a vet. Unbelievable. Oh my
What
goodness.
a guy.
Yeah, honestly.
He is a very good vet.
Absolutely fantastic, and he could see that I was struggling, but he took over. It needed him to stay, for the clients to stay, and for the business to run, and he agreed. And Hannah had just had Edith, but she was going to come back as well, and then they employed Ellie as well. So it worked out fantastically well.
And you're still in touch with all the guys?
Yeah, absolutely. And I miss the farmers.
Are you semi-retired then, or are you?
Well, I've
fully
actually gone.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
I've got I'm a retired member of the RCVS, so I can go back pretty much straight away. And I've left the door open, because this will be the first Christmas of the first winter when I haven't had anything to do, and that might be a game changer.
And you're still very young.
Yes, yeah.
Are you doing Gail's head in yet?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I have been for years.
Yeah.
I
kind of got that vibe, Stuart.
Well, I think, Stuart, that's absolutely brilliant. I mean, we're going to have to come to an end now, aren't we, really, with where we are? But it's been absolutely fantastic. Willie,
I think we still need some top tips. We've covered we've covered quite a lot of ground, so I think we need just a summary. My summary would be that you couldn't have got where you've got to without Gail, and probably she's been really instrumental, not just in your career but very much in your family and personal life as well. You're very, very keen to support the next generation and bring them on and nourish and encourage and provide all of your amazing advice. You're also a really, really great person, Stuart. So have you got any, we're talking about a Christmas cracker. We want to infuse and inspire and motivate our listeners. Have you got like 3 key take-homes from your incredible career that is still... I've got a hint here, Willie. I think it's definitely not ended. There's a lot more to do, Stuart, for sure.
So I think work hard. I got that from my dad, no doubt about it. You don't get anything in this world, do you? And it's getting worse. So you don't get anything for nothing, for certain. I think providing service is the key to a business. And as vets, we don't cater, but we don't deal well. Some do, but we generally don't deal well with the financial side of things. But do what you're good at.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us, Stuart. And we wish you and your family a very, very Merry Christmas.
Yeah,
Thanks so much.
And to you, thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Welcome, Mark. Thanks ever so much for joining us
Mark.
for our usual raw materials slot. Thank you very much.
Hello.
How are you?
Very good, thank you.
So, Mark, raw materials.
Yeah, so I'll just go straight into it. So globally, supply, crops, growing conditions and weather all seem to look very positive at the minute. So
Good.
That's given a bit of a bearish feel globally. However, domestically, there's a bit of a reluctance to sell compared to the London futures markets at the minute, whereby they feel that the futures prices are too low, which is obviously frustrating growers and not wanting to sell their product. Looking at that, though, all that happens really on a higher demand. So feed demand at the minute is quite good in the UK. Exports are low, but what's happening is there's a premium I've talked about it before. The premium seems to be going out. So it's kind of disconnected to the futures market at the minute. And I think it will be for the foreseeable future, resulting in basically a delivered mid-Devon price of wheat at around from anything from 180 to 185 plus £2 going forward a month. So, yeah, that's kind of where it has been for quite a while now and where it seems to have kind of settled at. Barley is trading, depending on location, anything up from £10 to £20 under that. Like I said, depending on location, seems to be drying up a little bit in the southwest at the minute.
Which would be typical for this time of year, wouldn't
very
it?
normal,
Yeah.
Going into December, kind of middle of the winter, feeding demand is high. So yeah, nothing unusual going on in the market at the minute. But like I said, going back to the wheat market, it's been very static at around the mid 180s for quite a while now. So that seems to be the level that we're talking about. Moving on briefly to currency, which does have a little bit of an impact on the soya market, which I'll come on to. Currency, following the budget, the expectation for inflation to slow down, which is in turn going to push the Bank of England potentially into a further drop of the interest rates in the coming months. But currency broadly for pound against the dollar is 132, which is slightly lower than it has been in recent months, but firmer than it has been in recent weeks. And compared to the euro, 114. So which again is relatively good over the past recent history, so last few weeks. I mean, I'm not political, but like most of our customers, suppliers and fellow family business owners, I do struggle to find any confidence in the way that the country's being run at the moment. When I was younger, I used to genuinely think that somebody within government had an idea of what they're doing. But like I said, I'm not political, but I really do struggle to understand why, the decisions are being made that seem to be really stifling business, and certainly family business, family farms, everything. Very frustrating for everyone, I would say, and very not, very anti-employment, I would also suggest, in that they're trying to obviously make out that they're supporting young workers, where all I can see is that they're putting off people employing young workers. Simple as that. Yep. So moving, that's get off my little
soapbox.
Get off my soapbox now. But yeah, I'm sure everyone is very frustrated with it. But yeah, it just does seem to be a bit crazy. So moving on to soya, sorry for that interaction of my politics. Yeah, moving on to hypo soya. Prices for that currently spot delivered to the Crediton area would be about £340. That is quite flat throughout the whole forward spread, going into certainly next spring and summer as well. So 340 ballpark. And spot rapeseed meal to about 222 quid. And that kind of, there's a bit of a premium going into the new year, but again, that's fairly flat throughout the whole forward period. Just to touch a little bit on soya, it's a bit of a talking point in the certainly in the UK soya supply at the minute. The EU has done a U-turn on its previous U-turn of the EUDR, holding that off for another year till January 2027, which is basically the the European Union deforestation regulation, which is basically in support of using sustainable soya throughout Europe. And although obviously the UK is not in the EU, the UK Soy Manifesto is what we're all abiding to, and our suppliers are abiding to. So we're signed up. We can supply everything, all the certification, all the correctly sourced soya as required by our customers. But the important thing is going into January 2026 is that we understand our customers, and we and the customers understand the requirements for each specific customer. Yeah. So it's quite important to get that right, because what's going to happen 12 months down the line, we're all going to be asked for certification or traceability on soya that was supposed to be used, hopefully has been used, but we just want to make sure it all lines up. So it's important for our customers to understand what soya they're required, or certification or sourcing that they require.
And to communicate that to us.
Yeah, we'll have a statement. We've got a soya statement that's going to be going out at the end of this month to make sure everything's aligned. So just to keep an eye on that.
Perfect.
Yeah. So
thanks so much, Mark. That's brilliant. Thank you for the update.
Yeah.
As we always say, correct at time of recording and not necessarily applicable throughout the month of December. So we'll just see how that goes. So speaking about the month of December then, Mark, the mill.
We closed down on the 1st, and 1st of December start up again in January.
Jan.
Yeah,
and
just have a lovely Christmas.
That is how Chinese Whispers happens.
Yeah.
So Christmas happens every year.
Does it?
25th.
Yeah, funnily enough.
Wow. 25th of December.
But it does still grab a few by surprise. So obviously, without wishing to state the obvious, we shut down for Christmas Day. So our manufacturing days are fewer in December, which would probably put a bit of pressure on, given that it's quite a feedy time of year.
Yeah.
But what other implications would it have on the mill?
So we obviously fully understand the importance of feeding animals. So we're obviously always try and deliver what the customer requires when they want it. Christmas, to be honest, we do pretty much manufacture up to Christmas Day morning, and not wanting to sound like Scrooge, but we will fire up Christmas Day night going into Boxing Day as well. So, I mean, it genuinely is just one day turned off at the mill. Thankfully, we've got an incredibly good team of staff to make sure everything keeps going. We try and manage it best we can, as fairly as we can, to make sure everyone gets obviously time with their families and are able to enjoy the festive period. But I think we all know when we sign up to working with supplying animals feed, that they need to eat every single day. So just because it's a day off, it doesn't mean to say everyone stops eating. So we're we work with an incredibly good group of manufacturing guys, the engineers, the drivers.
It's a full team approach, though, isn't it? To ensure that everybody gets what they need to when they get.
I mean, planning wise, they genuinely certainly for the intake raw materials, that would start in the beginning of November, probably mid-November, to make sure everything kind of gets ordered and is available to be delivered.
And obviously
when we
the
require
people
it.
that supply us with things like vits, mins, trace elements and stuff, they ask for really big lead times, don't they?
Yeah.
So really the people that plan all of that deserve medals, really, because it is a bit of guesswork as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I think in planning forward, everyone says you should never look back, but I think a lot of the figures that I do are daily, weekly, monthly, and although it may be different in terms of actual volume tonnage, it's certainly you can get a trend for what's required. So if it's an increase or decrease, you can kind of work out roughly what you're going to be using in that feeding season or feeding period.
How much does the weather impact on feeding? It's quite
huge.
a lot, isn't it?
I mean, the biggest thing would increase demand would be the forecast of snow.
Yeah.
And the one thing we can't really operate in very easily is snow. So, that's what we, good as that may seem, and, everyone would think that's good. The worst thing we would really want around Christmas is it to snow.
Yeah.
Because that would stifle
nightmare.
it. Yeah. But we'd work around it. All our guys are sensible, safe. No one would want to take any risks, but we just have to work around those sort of things. Weather is probably, in terms of the job, I suppose it's like farming. Everything becomes a bit more difficult in the dark, in the wet, and the cold. It's just one of those things you just work around.
Well, we are rapidly winging our way to the 21st of December, so then days are going to get longer again. Woohoo!
Summer.
You wondered where I was going with that, Willie, didn't you?
I thought you were about to Christmas Day. I'm sure we've 25th. Do we raw materials? Is that still? Do we ever get problems with getting raw materials in, or is it generally like you say, you just plan?
I think planning and working closely with our suppliers, which is these days a lot more of a partnership than a there's. Being quite honest, there's not masses of them, so we work very closely with them, as I'm sure a lot of our competitors do as well. So there's a very good, within the animal feed industry, a very good understanding, and that we work together when in these sort of times, and kind of certainly with our suppliers, we like to have good relationships to make sure we can kind of do what we need when we need to do it. But it'll, like I said, like we've always know, you guys know, we all know, it just comes down to really a massive team effort to do it. We certainly try and but balanced with a bit of fun as well.
We've got a couple of
we'll have a couple of social events over the next few weeks to hopefully make sure our appreciation is shared with everyone as well as it can be. And then get back to it and make sure the job's done. But we look forward to it though. This is I think all our guys are really enjoy a challenge, and this is a one that we really appreciate having, because nothing's a given, is it?
No, definitely not.
We appreciate having this challenge and like to work through it to be able to come out the other side.
And great that we've got such a fantastic team that pull together to get the job done.
Genuinely, it sounds a bit, but that's all it is a team effort, to make sure it happens.
All goes swimmingly.
Fingers crossed.
Well, I suppose it just takes us to say a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to all of our listeners.
Merry Christmas to everyone.
Thanks for supporting the CMC Talks podcast for all of these episodes.
Yep.
And we wish you a healthy and happy festive time. Thanks ever so much for joining us, Mark.
Happy Christmas, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.